Is there anybody sunshine can turn to rain? Is there anyone's blue sky can turn to gray? Is there anybody's good time turned out real bad? Is there anyone's happiness turned out sad? And I know I can't trust in the things that I see, that I see. All I know is that he's working on me. So let it rain, let it pour. Lord, I need you more and more. Let it rain down on me. Every day, whatever you want, not my will, but yours. So let it rain down on me.
Hey guys, welcome into Faith and Football. That's right, we're back again. Episode 2, we're talking about mistakes that newbies make. And I thought it appropriate when I first came up with this to do Romans 3:22, which says, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But I got a different word. I got the story of Peter walking on the water with Jesus. And for those of you who don't know, if you have your Bible, if you have the Bible app, go with me to Matthew chapter 14, and we're going to talk from verse 29. But if you go back a little farther, you're going to see what's happening. The disciples have gotten in a boat, and they started across the water, and Jesus wasn't with them. He said, you guys go ahead. I'll catch up with you later. They thought he meant, hey, I'm going to get a different boat. Everything's cool. Don't worry about it. So they're out there for a little bit, and they see him walking on the water. They think it's a ghost. And Jesus speaks to them. He says, don't be afraid. Take courage. I am here. He says that in verse 27. Peter gets all excited. He's like, hey, Lord, I want to come out there with you. I want to be with you. And I think it's representative of us a lot. You know, we see the goodness that the Lord has for us, and we want to be part of it. What we don't see is everything we have to do to get there. And in fantasy football, it's a lot like that. You know, we see the accolades that we get from winning. We see the positive things, but what we don't see are, you know, the heart palpitations we get when we watch our players on Sunday or Monday night or Thursday night, and we don't think about the things for us to get there. You know, forgot my drink. No, I'm not drinking Bang this morning. I'm drinking some Freedom. No, it's just orange juice. But you know, we don't see the hard things that we have to do to get there. Well, Peter, he hops out on the boat and he's walking on the water with Jesus because he's focused. He's focused on the Lord. He's focused on Jesus. The problem comes in verse 29. And it says, so Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on water towards Jesus. Now think about this. You have so much faith in Jesus that you hop out of a boat onto the water, knowing that you can walk to him. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. Save me, Lord, he shouted. Jesus immediately reached up in verse 31 and grabbed him. Says, you have so little faith. Jesus said, why did you doubt me? Now, I know a lot of times I myself go through hard times. I go through, hard days. I have rough days at work. I have rough days in my marriage. I have rough days with the kids. And I have to refocus myself. That's why it's so important to stay close to the Lord in your walk. And you have to, you have to do the hard things to get to what the Lord has for you, but you got to stay focused on it. You can't be looking left or right when you're following the Lord, because you're going to get distracted. There are so many things nowadays that are distracting us. Our phones, which you guys might be watching me on right now, is your laptop, the internet, other people, the news. I mean, I hardly even watch the news anymore, just for the simple fact that I get so disgusted with the way that the world is right now and the way that things are going. But I take solace in the fact that I know that the Lord is in control, regardless of how bad things get. It will always work out the way that the Lord wants it to. The song that you heard in the beginning was Let It Rain by Crowder and Mendesa. I encourage you to go listen to the rest of the song, because it talks about, the same Lord that brings the sunshine also brings the rain. And it's something for us to remember as we walk with the Lord, is that he does allow the bad times to come. He does allow those things to come, but he also brings the sunshine at the end. So I hope that that's an encouraging word. And speaking of mistakes, Peter made the mistake of taking his eyes off the Lord. We're going to talk today about the mistakes that newbies make, and some of the things I had last year. I did the same list. I'm going to just add a little bit to it. So it's going to be a top 15 of why newbies make mistakes. So welcome into the football part of Faith in Football. You just had a little taste of the faith right there. I hope that that's encouraging for you throughout the rest of your day. So let's get into today, Tuesday, July 6th, episode of mistakes that newbies make. And a lot of these are going to be mistakes that you make in the draft, but there's going to be some mistakes that you make throughout the season. So at the draft, you're going to have name blindness. Now, what is name blindness? You're like, man, what are you talking about, name blindness? That's when you get blinded by the name of the player. Example, Ezekiel Elliott, my boy D Money, who I forgot to give a shout out to in the last video. So, hey, D, what's happening, brother? The last year, he had Ezekiel Elliott. Now, he did a really good job drafting him. I think he had him with the 5th overall pick. He fell to him, and he took Zeke. So he takes Zeke, and everybody knows what happened last year. Dak went down with injury, and Zeke was horrible. He put up the worst numbers of his career. But D could not get off of him for anything, and it wound up hurting his chances of making the playoffs. I kept telling him week after week after week, when Zeke has a really good week, that is the time to trade him. You can trade on a name, okay? Not necessarily performance. There are times when you're going to have guys like Joe Mixon last year had a 42-point performance, and that should have been the time that you traded him. But a lot of people it's hard to get off of that performance. It's even harder to get off the name. So if you have a guy like Zeke Elliott, CMC, Saquon, Dalvin Cook, D-Hop, DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Mahomes, guys like that, if they start, not doing that well, you got one or two options. If you believe that it's a fluke, if you believe that performance or that string of performances is not indicative of what's going to happen for the season, put them on your bench, start somebody else, and wait it out. However, when you have something happen like you have had last year, getting off of Ezekiel Elliott in season would have been the better move. Now, in the draft, don't draft a player simply based on name alone. So some of these guys have a really big name. Everyone knows them, but there might be other people in a better situation with not as recognizable a name. when you go into the draft. So watch out for that. Also, the hype train. You can either be riding the hype train or you can be run over by the hype train. Okay. You have unknown rookies, last year breakouts, guys who, when they're hyped up a lot. Right now it's Najee Harris with Pittsburgh Steelers. Him coming out and being drafted by Pittsburgh was an ideal landing spot for him. He's going to be used in the passing game. He's going to be heavily favored in the run game. He's going to have well over 250 carries. He's with a quarterback who's aging, with Ben Roethlisberger, who's turned into Mr. Checkdown. He's sort of gotten into the mold of Philip Rivers later in his career, who just checked it down to the running backs when the wide receivers weren't open. And that's great for a running back. But remember, Najee Harris has not done it in the NFL. It's a different animal. Another player that's really, really hyped this year, a wide receiver, is Jamar Chase. Chase has been hyped up. I'm on board with the Jamar Chase hype train in Cincinnati. I'm actually on board with a lot of the Cincinnati players. So last year wasn't so big on Joe Burrow, wasn't so big on Joe Mixon. I told everyone on the show last year that lay off of Joe Mixon because Joe Burrow had to prove that he was the quarterback that they drafted. He proved that. Joe Mixon started having some good games and then he got hurt, never started again with any consistency. So this year, I'm all about him. Last year, breakouts. If you got a guy who broke out last year, who had like Justin Jefferson with the Vikings, he broke out last year as a wide receiver in his rookie season. Now, is he going to do the same thing? It can be hard for some rookies to have that rookie success and then translate it to your sophomore year. Sometimes they take a dip. Usually it's a third-year wide receiver that breaks out. But he's got everything's the same. So the Justin Jefferson hype train should be a safe bet for you. There's really no indication of him slowing down. So watch out for the hype train. Don't be a homer. And what is a homer? I call it local flavor. It's whatever team that you root for, whatever team is in your area. A lot of the times when you watch shows like this, when you watch more professional shows like this, let me tell you that guys like Fantasy Pros, the fantasy footballers, those guys are professionals at this. And when they do their mock drafts and when they do their ADP, which is, if we remember from the last episode, is average draft position. If we remember that, then when they do all their lists and things, they're doing it from an expert standing. They don't know the guys that you draft with. So the people who you draft with have a different mindset. They're going in going, I really, really want Michael Thomas because I'm a Saints fan. I really, really want Alvin Kamara because I'm a Saints fan. I really, really want Terry McLaurin because I'm a Washington fan, or Antonio Gibson. So people like that are more inclined to take players earlier than they should. If you have guys who are, they have no vested interest in any one particular team, or they're able to separate their fandom from their fantasy management style, then they draft players actually where they belong. Unfortunately, guys like us, or people like us, don't necessarily draft with experts. So we have to take that into consideration. You have to know who you're drafting with. There's also what I call the lemming effect. This is number 4. The lemming effect is when there's a run on a position. You're going to find yourself during your draft, somebody's going to take a tight end or somebody's going to take a quarterback, and everyone else is going to panic, just like lemmings following each other off a cliff. Don't fall into that. Don't lose focus from whatever strategy you go in with. Okay, if you go into your draft and you go, okay, I want, you know, take a couple of running backs early. I want to take a couple of wide receivers next. I want to wait on a good value pick for a tight end and a quarterback. Just because people start taking players and might take one or two that you targeted, that doesn't mean that you have to take the next most popular guy. Okay, stay focused, stay strong. Now, you do have to be flexible, at times during your draft, because yeah, you're gonna tilt. You're gonna, man, I really wanted this guy. Man, I really wanted that guy. You're gonna have to make adjustments. Okay, but don't get caught in taking a position that you didn't want earlier just because everyone else is taking that. Okay, guys. Um, OSOM. Remember that. OSOM. Out of sight, out of mind. Um, this is things that players that were out of sight, out of mind, they were injured or they faded late in the year. So a lot of people have a short-term memory. They forget, they remember the really, really good parts of the season last year, or they forget about why a player performed the way he did. Prime example last year, David Montgomery was an absolute beast down the stretch. He won people championships last year, but he also had an extremely soft schedule for running backs. The last 4 or 5 weeks that he played, nothing but cupcakes for defenses. Okay, I think he had like Jacksonville, a couple other really weak defenses last year. Houston, I think, was another one, but he just ran roughshod all over the last few opponents, and that wasn't indicative of what he did the rest of the season. Rest of the season, weeks 1 through 8, it was rough being a David Montgomery manager. I know I was one of them. But I held on to him. I stayed the course, and I believed in him. I looked at his schedule, and that's why I believed in him. But take a look at that. I was way wrong on AJ Green last year. Thought he was going to be something. Turned out he wasn't. He was washed, but he was one of those guys who got hurt, just like Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, people are going to remember that, yeah, he's really good, but they're going to forget about how good he was. He was on an absolutely mind-boggling pace last year in the first 5 games before he got hurt. So he got hurt, he was out. People might forgot about him. He might fall a little bit. So keep an eye on that. Things like that. Late round exhaustion. I know. Look, when you start getting in the double digits, see if I can speak this morning. When you start getting in the double digit rounds, you're gonna find yourself at the point where you're just like, man, I don't care. Give me Joe Montana as my backup, and everybody's gonna look at you and go, Joe hasn't played for a while. So stay focused. Okay. Remember that the late rounds, those are the times when you find value. Those are the times when you take your shot on a player that you really believe in. If you got a guy late that you think could be a good breakout candidate, look at the environment that's around him. I'm going to be talking about this later in another episode. Is environmental drafting. Okay, it's looking at the environment around the player for you to make your best shot at that pick for your draft. What have you done for me lately? Okay, and again, I'm going back to David Montgomery on this one. Weeks 1 through 8, bad. Weeks 9 through 16, awesome. But a lot of players get sucked into that. What have you done for me lately? And they forget what a good player this guy is. You have to look at the circumstances around him. Did he have a bad play caller? If he performed poorly? If he performed really well, let's just say he was a quarterback, he performed really well. Does he still have all the same pieces around him? Has his offensive line stayed the same? Is there a cohesion on that offensive line? Places like Vegas with the Raiders, They got rid of 3 of their 5 starting offensive line. I'm not real happy about that as somebody who likes Josh Jacobs. So I'm probably going to steer away from anyone on the Raiders not named Darren Waller. Okay, so keep that in mind when you go into your draft. That the what have you done for me lately? You have to look at the environment around that player. Number 8. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I know there's some of you out there that you sit back, you kick a couple of alcoholic beverages back with your buddies when you're doing your draft. That's fine. Keep it under control, guys. Remember, and number 8 is one for you guys. Friends will let friends draft drunk. This ain't driving. This ain't heading out to the club or coming back from it. You don't have to Uber. They're not going to care that you're getting plastered and making stupid mistakes at your draft. Okay, so don't drink until after your draft with your buddies. Okay, when to walk away from the big name. Okay, this is number 9. Now, last year only did 8. We're chalking, we're taking it up a couple of notches for this year. When to walk away from a big name. I talked earlier about Zeke Elliott. There are times when you have to walk away from the big name. Okay. Another mistake that newbies make is they pick the wrong league. Okay. If you pick a league that's extremely competitive and you're not a competitive person, you're not going to have any fun. It's not going to be enjoyable for you. You're going to get people are probably going to trash talk in the chat rooms. You're going to be made fun of. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience. Okay. So if you're not a really uber competitive person, don't play with people who are really super competitive. You might want to play online, in some community. Go on Yahoo. You can go on fantasy football. There's a fantasy football app from the NFL. You can join leagues on Google. You can join leagues pretty much anywhere, ESPN, what have you. They have all different competition levels. Pardon me. And here's the other thing. I found myself overloading my head with stats, with information, and it kind of clouded my judgment on a couple of players, because you can find a show where people have, because everybody has different opinions. They're going to have one opinion and they're going to have stats to back it up. That's why I'm not a big stat guy. They're going to have cherry pick stats to back up their argument of why you shouldn't pick this player. But then you can turn around, find another show that has the exact same player with the exact opposite take on that player. So pick a couple of good shows, a couple of good outlets to have. Just take the information for what it's worth. Make your own decision on what you feel that player is going to be doing. Okay. This goes to my next point is, who are you influenced by? Look, it's your team. Okay. Everybody who you watch on your social media, on your laptop, whatever, they all have their opinion, but it's not your team. Okay. I'm here to help you guys. If you guys have a question, look down the bottom, subscribe, like, and share for me. Leave a comment. Okay. I answer all my comments. You can also find me on Twitter at Faith and Football. So, shout out to me there if you want. But please remember, it is your team. Okay. You need, and I said it earlier, stay focused. You need to stay focused about injuries and other issues. Okay. So make sure that you're subscribed to some kind of outlet that gives you injury updates, so you can follow that throughout the league or throughout the year. My next to last point, I'm almost wrapped up, guys. Thank you for staying with me. I appreciate it. Is you cannot control someone else's team. So when you're in the draft and when you're in the season, remember, it's just your team that you have control over. Just the same way that it's your life that you're living, okay? You can't control how someone else reacts to you. All you can do is pray for them, okay? So remember, you can't control someone else's team. So if they make a call that affects you, just make an adjustment, okay? Same way in life, if someone does something to you that you don't appreciate or you don't like that affects you negatively, then just make the adjustment, guys. Just let it roll, okay? Look, the Lord's there for you. I'm here for you. Down the bottom, subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment, please. I'd love to have some interaction with you. The most important thing about fantasy football that I want you guys to take away from this, have fun. That's what it's all about. We're here for fun, guys. That's it. Okay. Yeah, there might be some money involved with some leagues, but all in all, you're doing this because it's fun. It's enjoyable. Okay. Yeah, you're putting a lot of work into it, but nothing fun ever came easy, right? Come on, you had to work for something. So remember, guys, have fun and remember the other rules. If you have to go back and watch this again before you draft, please do. Remember, my name's Neil. I'm here for you guys. Also, shout out to Scooter Grenett. He is with the Cincinnati Reds. I'm going to be leaving a hashtag on my Twitter. This is for him. So one Christian to another. Look, keep up the good work, my man. I really, really admire what you're doing on the national stage and bringing attention to your faith and to our Lord. So thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you tuning in to Faith and Football. Remember to tune in Thursday, and we will go over some more mock draft advice. So hope to see you then. Until then, stay tuned, stay in prayer, and remember, we are Faith and Football, the one show with a little higher calling. Take it easy, guys.